So I think we've brought this up before, but Conservative Home is sort of under new management. No one's bought it or anything like that, but it's got a new editor, a guy called Giles Donald, and he has taken over from Henry Hill. And to be honest, in my opinion, Henry Hill was miles better as an editor for Conservative Home. He still writes on Conservative Home every so often, but I think this new guy, he's a bit of a waffler. He writes hugely long trailing blogs, and he's just like, get to the point already. What point are you trying to make on this? However, one thing in particular I really want to bring up, because we've talked about this multiple times, that all these candidates are just throwing around the word unity like it's going out of fashion, but not actually saying why they are going to achieve this unity, or how they're going to achieve unity, or what if someone steps out of line. And yet, all of them are talking about ideological unity, but every single candidate on that stage is talking different stages of ideology, different things that they want. And yet, a party that is divided does not win elections. It does not win arguments. It cannot even function properly as a party. And make no mistake, after this Conservative leadership election, they're going to go back to it. They are going to go back to fighting. And I have said this time and time again whenever we've covered this. By the time we get to the next general election, there will be, mark my words, there will be at least 2 or even 3 Conservative leadership elections. Because not one of the people that is going forward, or at least standing at this current election, is really suitable to be a leader of the political party. None of them are capable of saving the Conservative Party. They are all various different aspects of just how bad the Conservative Party is. And it tells you a lot with the fact that Robert Jerrick is like the front runner, a guy who back in the past would have been taken to the side and just told, sorry, you've just got too much baggage, you're not running. How much the Conservative Party has indeed changed over the years. But today we're going to talk about, once again, the favorite subject of the Conservative Party at the moment, unity. And even Conservatives are actually starting to realize, oh, yeah, this word unity is becoming a bit useless. It's a bit meaningless, really. It's just becoming a bit of a buzzword amongst the candidates. So when even your new brand new editor of the Conservative Home is bringing this up, and he talks about a conversation he had with a friend about this, oh boy, definite trouble ahead, massive trouble ahead. But before we do get into that, please remember to click the like, share, subscribe button. There are links down below. Patreon page, one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. YouTube thank you button. And of course, as always, there is the Pony Club down below. And of course, don't forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, let's crack on then into this. So, unity is not a choice, but it is necessary if the party wants to prove the cocktail hour commentators wrong. So, I have had I've had many gloomier drinks with a friend, but I honestly can't remember when. Do you realize there is every chance you'll be the editor that has to cover the disintegration of the Tory party? Yeah, I that will be the case. It will absolutely be the case, because the disintegration of the Tory party will continue. The meandering promises of singing Kumbaya only going to last so long. And trust me, there's 2 big chances next year. Local elections, Scottish parliamentary elections. If they perform badly at one or even both, they're gone. It may be even sooner than that. So, but anyway, it continues. It's odd to think that my wise, oft turned to, and very well informed interlocutor in this instance is a Conservative Party member. Possibly, I replied, but I add, as I have before, I believe rumours of the party's demise are exaggerated and premature. That's what a lot of people thought about many things that then, um, you know, disintegrated and went kapoof. Um, if the fall of the Conservative Party is really to happen, it will probably be a very long and slow one. Rome did not fall in a single day. It fell really over a process over 100 years. Um, I think we've really seen the start of the Conservative Party, unless something drastically changes, and I mean drastically changes. If they continue like this, yeah, we will see them gone in maybe a decade, if not more. But it's going to take some time for them to completely disintegrate. One of the big indicators that that could happen is things like if the Liberal Democrats become the main party of opposition, if they start to beat the Lib Dem, if they Lib Dems start to beat them into sort of second place, that is going to be a very big indicator that the Conservative Party is on the out in quite significant fashion. But I had to admit, of course, that it might still happen, but suggested that it's down to the party to see that it doesn't. Doggedly, my friend doesn't let up, saying, yes, but everyone keeps bleating on about unity. What have I just been saying? It's all very well saying it, but on evidence, unity is going to be hard to actually achieve. Again, what have I been saying? This has not been brought up to any of the candidates. Not any of the candidates. How hard unity is going to be actually achieved within the party. Because we've been over it, I don't know how many times. The Conservative Party, as basically someone's put a sheet of glass down and just gone like that with a hammer. It is shattered. All different ideas, ideologicals, beliefs. It's going to take a leader who can actually really navigate those and refix the party back together again. And that guy ain't there. It ain't there. Tom Tugendhat might have been probably the best caretaker for maybe the Conservative Party, but even he started drinking the Kool-Aid and not once a good, shall we say, caretaker anymore. So back to this. Everyone keeps talking about unity, but it's all very well saying it. But on real recent evidence, unity is going to be very hard to achieve. Also, I'm telling you, whoever wins the leadership contest won't make it to the next general election. It's going to get worse before it ever gets better. Yeah. Whoever his friend is, maybe they watch me. Who knows? Yeah, he's 100% right. And I have to say, Conservatives would do well to truly absorb just how many people, especially within their own ranks, believe that is inevitable. That in a couple of years, we'll be doing this all over again. And they are right. They are right. Because the Conservative Party has not learnt its lessons. It has learnt nothing. The fact that every single person who has stood for the leadership contest is basically a different aspect of massive conservative failure. Every single one. Even Mel Stride, the comedy candidate, is a guy who really believed that he was almost far worthier beyond his talent. If you've seen, as we covered Mel Stride's glorious victory of 62 votes just surviving, thinking he's God's gift to conservatism. But there you go. So inevitably, a couple of years that we're doing this all over again. They may be wrong, but there are more of them out there. That is even before you count the Westminster Commissariat and those who went to reform, as my friend concluded, saying, I'm sorry, guys, but we're just not done burning yet. Yeah. Your friend's right there. Your friend's massively right there on that. Massively, massively right there on that, because not one of any of the people who are really getting the opportunity to really question the leadership candidates, even Ben Ouchen's bizarre podcast that he has, where he's like blueprints, where he's talking with like all these, you know, leadership candidates, even he's throwing them like the most softball questions and not really asking them the deep questions that need to be asked. Like, well, you talk about unity, but how actually are you going to achieve unity? Um, and you say ideological unity, but what happens to, say, the rest of the party that don't believe like you do? And what about, how do we solve things like, you know, the scandals that we've had? But when you say someone like that Robert Jerrick, who is the leader in this current race at the moment, has just got so many skeletons in his closet. you know, you look at Kimmy Badnock, obsessed with having woke ideology battles, which no one else in the country cares about, which is not an election winner, but she is obsessed with having these fights and battles. You've got James Cleverly, who basically represents almost the entirety of the worst political decisions since 2016 that the Conservatives have taken. And yet there he is thinking, yeah, we did nothing wrong. We just weren't conservative enough. Just anyway, he continues. So, in the face of this now adapt or die scenario, there is a third option to stay just about on life support while others even fill in the gap. In that case, sorry, Meatloaf, but 2 out of 3 really is bad. Dark as my friend's predictions are, I do take issue with such fatalism. Surely, if you convince yourself that something is inevitable, it becomes a self fulfilling prophecy. The path to I told you so, Pyrrhic vindication, is then lined with all the signs of one chose to see, and it is littered with the evidence to the contrary that there was now willfully ignored. And yet, the party isn't really addressing why it really lost the last election, all the problems it had, the fact that it thinks that these people standing for an election are actually acceptable. The only one really was Tom Tugendhat, but even then, he has now started to drink the Kool-Aid on, oh, well, we could leave the European Court of Human Rights, but now we started saying, well, actually, we're going to leave parts of it. Wait, we're going to leave parts of it? That doesn't even make sense. So until people in your party actually take a serious self-retrospective look at the party, what went wrong, and ask the deep questions that it does not want to ask, which is why is the country in such a state that it is in, and that is because of policies that the Conservative Party chose to do, with short-termism at its very core of its ideas, dating all the way back to David Cameron. It must look back at 14 years and really realize it wasn't good. And until they can actually have that proper self-respective look, yeah, they are going to be here in a year, because nothing will change in the party. Nothing will change. Almost every single candidate, as far as they are concerned, is practically saying, we lost the last general election because we were not conservative enough. Nothing to do with their policies, nothing to do with their decisions or anything like that. No, we were just not conservative enough. So, yeah, I agree with his friend. They aren't done burning yet. They are not done burning yet. Also, it is now the gift-edged invitation to the mass apathy that no one inspires voters with the slightest whiff of that in the air. That said, I have also have issue with some of the responses to calls for unity. At least he's admitting that. I understand the skepticism. There's a lot of frustration, even anger, to come out before the party is actually really ready to move on. But it must, and I am not convinced that it has a choice. Yeah, there is a lot of anger and frustration in the party. And I'll tell you what, they should have let it run. The best thing they could have done is have this long leadership contest, but this threat of unity and like, oh, don't argue. No, let it happen because sooner or later it will come out. It will bubble to the top. And when it does, it will probably sink the Conservative Party again. They will be continuing to burn, and nothing of this of the loss of anything like that will be learned. And they'll be hearing again in a year's 2 months' time. And as your friend said, yeah, you will be doing this all over again. Probably maybe within a year or so. Maybe two. And like I say, by the time you get to the next election, whoever gets elected this one will not be taking the party into a general election. I will be shocked. I will be shocked if that is the case. So, um, so all four leadership candidates want the party to come together. Without it doing so, the party may well end up doing this again because of the cold hard reality outside the Tory bubble is that the public is now tired of disunified parties, whatever colour the rosette. And yet, why is the party disunified? What is the underlying issues in the party? What is causing this disunity? And it is at the problem, this ideological differences within the party that have to be fixed and addressed and tackled head on. And until the party can actually do that, no unity will be achieved. No unity whatsoever. So, he continues, here's what I said to my friend over that drink. He said, it's time to get serious, to listen, and to shed some of the bad habits. Well, no one's doing that. no one is doing that. So, amid now the smouldering ruins of the election result, there are now at least glimmers of hope. Labour continues to disappoint with a surprising speed. They've only been in a couple of months. Anyone who's saying that Labour is laying like a massive disappointment, they've done some good stuff so far, but yeah, I'd like them to do a bit better on some of the other stuff. But they've only been in power for like a couple of months. And to be honest, they're not doing so that bad, actually. Even this scandal with Keir Starmer, for the fact that, he actually took advice, he actually took, to the proper parliamentary authorities and said, oh, yeah, by the way, this happened. Do I need to do this? What should I be doing about it? That's not how previous conservative scandals like this have unfolded. We found out about this like 2 or 3 months later. you know, it's not the same. It's really not the same. And if MPs, bear in mind, should not be receiving gifts, or you're annoyed that Keir Starmer is receiving gifts, I've got news for you. MPs since the election, even before that, received hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of gifts. This is not new. MPs receiving gifts should not come as a surprise to anyone. And if you want to end this, then guess what? Maybe the Conservatives should introduce a bill that stops MPs from getting gifts. Maybe they should not receive this type of gifts anymore. Have they been forthcoming about suggesting this as an idea, putting this forward as a bill or as an amendment to something else to add on? No, because they all receive gifts. They're all as bad as each other when it comes to this, but it should be stopped. And I agree, it should be stopped. It is not a good look. But until, they actually do something about it, then this is just a fact that has been continuing on for years. But there you go. But it is, of course, no more inevitable that the party will now capitalize properly on this than it will implode. The path from staggering to its feet through clearing off the dust, healing and working again to be match fit let alone to win, is now simultaneously trying to earn the right to be heard, is now fraught with risks. The party has a long history of overcoming these risks and being successful. It has done it without a high degree of unity of purpose. Thus, the calls for unity from all potential leaders is not naive noise. It absolutely is naive noise, because what unity are they going to rally under? What happens when the rest of the party do not agree with that? What their leader is spinning? It is a necessary foundation, not just for rebuilding, but for rebuilding anything meaningful at all. To be crystal clear, this is not a plea for support for one candidate over another, or whoever wins will not have to persuade people to give them their full support. They too will have to adapt whilst leading. And that has not happened. That has not happened. Constantly, it has been my way or the highway since Boris Johnson. In fact, going back to Theresa May, where every single group of numerous MPs said, no, we should be going this way. No, we should be doing this. No, we should be doing this. No, we should be doing this. This has opened up a lot of battles and policy decisions, beliefs with the party. It's huge. It's huge, the amount of disagreements that are really going on beneath the surface. And until someone actually decides to tackle those head on, you can't just keep papering over the cracks with Unity wallpaper, because guess what? Sooner or later, the wallpaper doesn't cover the cracks. They emerge again. You put some more Unity wallpaper on, but guess what? In a couple of months, maybe a year, that crack appears again. So all six have been now very clear that the machinery of the party does need a complete overhaul. Again, navel gazing. Uh, nothing about policy, ideology, or anything like that, or why they went wrong. Oh, we just need to overhaul the machinery of the party. That's smoke and mirrors, so that they don't actually have to talk about the real problems that are going to affect the party. This is going to mean changes, and of course, members and even party officials are going to have to accept those with good grace. All leadership contenders have said that they will accept the result and even stick around to support the new leader. They should. The party doesn't have enough MPs for 2-year sulks or even campaigns running now in sleepy mode, ready to burst into life at the first sign of trouble. The last 5 years have proved, for ample proof, that this is a recipe for failure. And why are they going to do that? Nothing in the Tory party so far has shown that they are really going to accept that. Because trust me, they will. They will be ready for that. So Tory MPs in the last parliament might say this, might at this point say, for their part, that they've tried holding the line, tried to hold their nerve, and in doing so, it seems a lot of their colleagues have now ceased to be MPs. Voicing their concerns, preferably in private, is to be fair, part of their job. However, private behavior, visible factionalism, the emergence of the so-called five families, a worrying tendency for bouts of for herd panic simply will not cut it when you just have 121 MPs. Nobody thinks democracy is served by blind allegiance. There was an equally bad public reaction to that in the last parliament under different PMs. But authentic, sustained teamwork would surely not go amiss. Interesting. How are you going to achieve that? How are you going to achieve that sustained teamwork? The factionalism is still there. You know, how do you fix that factionalism? How do you achieve this unity? Even this guy is not really addressing that, that problem. He is basically saying, oh, well, yeah, we need to, we need to unity, because otherwise, we look bad. But okay, yeah, we know that you look bad because you don't have unity, but how then do you fix the problems of that unity? How do you bring the party together? They are in an absolute mess, as I said they would be many, many times leading up to this election. The bigger loss that they have, the worse the panic, the more they are out of action for it. Just they just cannot understand the deep, complex problems that affect the party. Equally, he says, the big beast will now be tempted by a bit of backseat driving, should perhaps the temporary now even revoke their licenses. Their valuable wisdom doesn't need to be dismayed in the pages of the newspaper, or even accepting a flattering invitation to the studios that, in my broadcasting experience, has only really come if they have criticism to impart. As another friend of mine from the media has said, uh, it'll take time to wean us off the daily dose of blue on blue. Oh, considering the fact that you just had Dominic Grieve absolutely blast Robert Jarrett yesterday, kind of funny. So, how do you actually build this necessary unity? Maybe you'll actually get to that. Maybe you'll actually tell us finally. How do you achieve this unity? So, how do you build this necessary unity? That must be for the party. There must be a new leader, but the ideas of a broad church with a common creed is not without merit as a starting point. Well, except what happens when you have this broad church and someone wants to set fire to it, like we saw with the Euroscepticism debate, and constantly Brexit. And after they got Brexit, everyone split off, really not really now suring to know that they've burnt down the church. You know, you burnt down the church. Now what do you do? You know, do you need to build a new church? Well, guess what? Not everyone agrees with that new church because they built another church. You know. On a more selfish note, he continues, what is more, what if my desponding friend, of course, if wrong, is wrong? If the party does unite and sing very harmoniously on the same song sheet, what do we do here at Conservative Home? Well, we'd work in the progress and certainty at the same time, but that would risk now of attracting the charges of hypocrisy, which hopefully the Labour Party seems to have magnetically hold of right now. I will simply say that we've always been independent of the party. We are not funded or even directed by it, but we will be its critical friend. There are enough wise voices hosted now upon these pages, and I'm always in the market for more to warn, guide, and even observe the future of the party without the need for internal warfare in the party itself. And oh boy, yeah, thinking that will not be continuing internal party warfare is disastrous because let's say Robert Jarrett wins and he builds this new broad church. Yeah, it's not going to last because they all want different things. They all want different things, and it's going to be even harder, to be honest. If you thought a large number of MPs was difficult to keep track of them, a small number of MPs will be even harder and will not only fracture even more, but fracture into even more powerful groups. So, yeah, look forward to that. Sadly, though, it is the truth that if we do not chart this, then disintegration it will be. And then with a heavy heart, this is what we will do. Yes, unity is sometimes a slogan. It has also been used to try and guilt the unconvinced on this slogan to now unwillingly in one direction, or even being a sign of resignation because it is what any party says when their team is now flat on its back. The problem is that achieving a unified party is an essential prerequisite for getting anywhere worthwhile at all. And yet, how are you actually going to do that? All you've said is that really everyone just needs to start singing from the same hymn sheet. So, how do you do that? How do you bring people along? How do you build this new broad church of conservatism? And they can't do that before they took a real good hard look at themselves in the mirror and actually ask the questions that they are not asking. And until they can do that, they ain't going anywhere. So, where are we? So tonight, friends of the party and of ours out of this site and leadership candidates, donors, supporters, members now will unite at Conservative Home's election delayed summer reception. I'm not only looking forward to now welcoming them for the first time as editor, but after my last drink discussing the party's future, it would be good to hear some positive predictions over the glass. I hope people actually have them. Yeah. No one has any positive predictions. Your friend saying this, I'm sorry, but we're not just done burning yet, is probably the most accurate prediction of the current Conservative Party. it is it is the most accurate prediction of what is going on in the Conservative Party. It is a burning dumpster fire that currently has been told, don't put any more stuff on the fire yet. Hopefully it will finish burning, but it will never. You've, yeah. And even in the comments, someone else, unity around what exactly? um, so this is interesting. People know that people have different views of what is in politics, the electorate, and are adults, and we should actually treat them as such. Do we have a duty to remember that disagreement is not the same as disunity? Disunity is a chronic condition that comes when parties lack purpose or anything or lacking a unifying vision. It leads to introspection, self-absorption, and what the voters don't like, or even when we inflict psychological trauma on ourselves. And whatever you think about Boris, what happened to him did that. And like what happened to Mrs. T, disagreement is sometimes healthy and necessary. Two, the above is especially true when we are in government, because as far as the voters are concerned, they are correct, except us to be focused on governing the country. They are a bit more forgiving of the oppositions like this. This unity is always a symptom of a deeper problem. Not having unity for its own sake, we have to tackle the root causes. Yeah, he's right. You have to be joking. Unity. Do you actually read the comments on this site? I'm one of the two to three million lifelong Conservative voters who have now drifted away from the party since 2015 because of Brexit, because of Johnson and then Truss, and because of the squabbling chaos in its now death spasm under Sunak. You will not win a general election without us. But read the comments, Mr. Editor. Two-thirds of those who would post again would rather lose again and again rather than build a broad center-right coalition that might actually win an election even 10 or even 15 years. I'm a conservative, but not an English nationalist. I believe in the rules-based international order that conservatives from Churchill to Thatcher did so much to actually build up. I believe in freedom, but within the rule of law. I believe in respecting our constitutional institutions, not destroying them. But the ragbag of OAPs who now control the party do not want my vote. Don't worry, this conservative isn't voting for your dysfunctional branch of the Bowlers Club. Enjoy your decades in opposition. Someone else immediately said, you make a very valid point, which I hear many conservative voters repeating. Yeah. There is actually a very interesting point, actually. And I've been wondered if you could find this somewhere. Like, how much of the actual Conservative membership really wanted Brexit? How many of them actually really wanted to do it, like, deep down? I suspect it will be hard to do now or even find, like, a good one, but it's it's true. And you got here because of Brexit, because of Johnson, then Truss, the squabbling, chaos, and the death span of Sunak. If you talk to or even talk to Tories like this, it all starts with Brexit. A lot of it starts with Brexit. Um, yeah, again, someone else saying unity over what? 17 million plus voted for Brexit and gave us a majority of 80 to then deliver it. Astonishingly, many of our own MPs and lords did everything they could to actually thwart a clean Brexit break. But again, that's not what people voted for. People always say, oh, yeah, everyone voted for Brexit. Okay, what type of Brexit? Because you can look at the Leave voice, and every single type of Brexit was being, sold. Of we could remain in the single market and customs union, but just leave the EU politically. What if you voted leave for that because you believed that was what you wanted? Has your Brexit been delivered? Has your Brexit been thwarted by like the hardcore Brexit headbangers? And again, trying to believe that many lords and MPs did everything they could to thwart a clean Brexit. They didn't even realize what many of these people were actually doing, like this guy. Um, but anyway, he continues. And then, of course, the 2024 election voters gave us then a well-deserved kicking. This is something you are seeing. This is something you are seeing a lot of. This idea that they didn't deliver Brexit and that this coalition that they had built in 2019, that's what gave them a kicking. That is also, again, fundamentally wrong as part of the this election as well. So why is anyone surprised? To get at least back a majority of 80, those who did anything to thwart Brexit now have to eat humble pie. Those in the party who held views that caused 4 million voters to abstain or even desert it then have to eat humble pie. No, they don't. They don't at all. These people who did not want this type of Brexit that the Conservatives delivered do not have to eat any humble pie at all. Someone else says here in response to that. So, in as far as 2019 was about Brexit, it was actually more about ensuring that Corbyn did not become PM. Which, again, very true. A lot of people voted for Conservative in 2019 because they did not want Corbyn to become MP. I know that stings many a leftist, but that was true. It was around making Brexit disappear from view because most people were absolutely sick of it. And they were beyond caring either way, just as so long as it was gone. And now many people have seen the reality of it, a depressing deflation of the national prospects with very little positive to actually offset it. They've rightly given the party who foisted it upon us a very good kicking. And someone else responds, 2019 was it was not. It was about Brexit. The proof is that Corbyn got many more votes in the 2017 election when the parties were both about promising a clear Brexit than in the 2019 election, when Labour had adopted a very messy compromise policy involving a second referendum. The 2017 election was about Corbyn and the Tories got 13.6 million votes versus the 12.9 million for Labour. In 2019, that election was about Brexit, and the Tories increased their vote to 13.9 million, while the Labour vote slumped to 10.2 million. Labour actually got more votes with Corbyn as leader in both 2017 and 2019 than with Keir Starmer as leader in 2024. You're denying the reality. Corbyn is more popular with voters than any current party leader. It depends what type of vote you're really asking for. Because if you look at Corbyn's popularity after 2017, his popularity tanked. Like you can look at the polls. In 2017, his popularity tanked. And in 2019, up against Boris Johnson could tell a better story than Jeremy Corbyn could. The Labour manifesto in 2019 was an absolute mess. That is someone who is coming from a member of the Labour Party. It was an absolute mess. Someone else then replies, many years working on projects teaches me that if something is possible, it gets done. But the opposite true is too. If something isn't done, then it is not usually because the team are inept or at least wanting to sabotage. It's usually proof the project was never well defined, properly budgeted, or even a lack of an impact assessment. Sorry, but Brexit is only achievable in the implementation if you want it at a cost that is completely unaffordable and on the conditions that no one can ever choose or has a long-term interest now in mind. So that's what you get as an MVP. This will never be released 2.0. Someone else is not fault of the electorate. MPs are elected by the public to serve the public. Someone else responds, the majority of people in the UK now think that Brexit was a completely silly idea, and the great majority of people under 50 think it was a disaster. So I suspect your cunning plan is a bit of a non-starter. So yeah, once again, the calls for unity not going to happen. And like I say, I think that perfectly just sums up the Conservative Party. They're just not done burning yet. I mean, what a way to sum up the Conservative Party. They're just not done burning yet. Can't can't disagree with him. That is spot on. That is absolutely 100% spot on. 100% spot on. And they ain't done burning yet. And trust me, after this is over, after this leadership contest is over, oh boy, the disunity is only going to continue. The factionalism is only going to continue until they actually solve deep underlying the underlying ideological problems with the party. And again, Brexit is one of them because it was all even Brexit is deeper than that because it's not about not liking the EU or anything like that. It's about free market fundamentalism. Do we either accept regulations and that regulations are good and necessary for businesses to follow so that they just don't go off and do things willy-nilly, or do you just accept that there should be no regulations and that businesses should just be free to do whatever the hell they want? That was the really topic that split the party over Brexit. It was free market fundamentalists that pushed for Brexit. They got it. They took control. The headbangers won, and they pushed forward on for a Brexit that ultimately they knew would have consequences, that they did not want to fully deliver on those consequences, even though they desperately wanted them because they thought they would be fine because they've been drinking the Kool-Aid. But that's where we are still to this day. But hey, that's it. That's unity, folks. It takes more than nice words to actually achieve unity. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.